Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell y'all something. Every now and then, the world gets loud. You hear bombs, breaking news, protests, sanctions, and folks arguing over who's right and who's wrong. But sometimes you gotta hear beyond the noise. You gotta look with more than your eyes, because baby, what's happening right now ain't just politics, ain't just nations fighting. This is prophecy. Now, I ain't here to scare nobody. I'm not here to predict dates or say, this is it, the end of the world. No, sir. What I am here to say is this: open your eyes. Look at the Middle East right now. Look at Israel. Look at Iran. Look at the shaking going on. And then open that Bible, turn to Ezekiel, and tell me we ain't living in something special, something holy, something foretold. See, there's this moment in Ezekiel 38 and 39 where the Bible talks about a land called Magog, a mighty nation rising up with others to come against Israel. Now, I'm not going to get into maps and ancient names tonight. You can do your homework later. But what you need to know is this: Iran is in the script, Russia too, and they ain't acting outside the plan. They just playing their role in a production written before time even had a name. But before we dive deep, let me pause and say this: don't look at these people like villains. Don't look at nations like they're demons. That ain't the message. God didn't create people to be pawns. He created them with purpose. But sometimes that purpose includes shaking the world so folks finally look you pee. Now, I remember a time when the world used to stop for a Sunday. You couldn't buy liquor, stores were closed, and your grandma made you put on shoes you hated just to sit still for 3 hours at church. We done lost that reverence. Now it's TikTok missiles, trending topics, and we got babies who know how to swipe on a phone but don't know how to pray. And all while we play, the word is unfolding right in front of us. Let me break it down like this. Israel ain't just a place on the map. It ain't just some dusty land with ancient stones. No, it's God's timepiece. You want to know how close we are to the end? Don't look at Wall Street. Don't look at Washington. Look at Jerusalem. Because when the nations surround Israel, when there's talk of peace treaties, and then missiles fly the next day, oh, honey, you better stop scrolling and start kneeling. That's not just conflict. That's Ezekiel. Now listen, I'm from a time where we had to read things twice to understand it. And when I first read Ezekiel 38, I said, what in the world is Gog and Magog? Who names their kids that? But I kept reading, and I started to see, this ain't just names. This is structure. This is alignment. The Bible says these nations will come together, seemingly out of nowhere, thinking they're going to crush Israel. Like it's a done deal. Like God went to sleep. Let me tell you something. God don't sleep. He don't blink. You think the creator of galaxies is worried about missiles and sanctions? Nah, he's letting the chessboard move piece by piece so the world can finally see that he is who he says he is. Now I know some of y'all might be thinking, all right, that's dramatic. Maybe this ain't prophecy. Maybe it's just war. And I hear you. But let me ask you this. When was the last time the world saw this many storms, floods, plagues, wildfires, and conflicts all at once? You think that's coincidence? You think that's just bad luck? Nah, baby, this is the shaking. And in the middle of the shaking, the Lord said he would call his people. Ezekiel says he will put a hook in the jaw of these nations and bring them toward Israel. That's force. That's purpose. That's divine alignment. And right now, you see alliances forming. Russia, Iran, Turkey. They used to be at odds. Now they're sipping tea and making plans. That ain't just politics. That's prophecy on a schedule. And Israel, still standing, still surrounded, still holding ground it shouldn't be able to hold unless God himself is holding it. You can't explain that away. But let me slow down because I feel this too deep. See, when you know you're living in prophecy, it makes you walk different. It makes you love deeper. It makes you stop playing church and start being the church. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to shake you awake. I'm here to remind you this ain't about sides. This is about souls. Now, people ask me all the time, why would God let war happen? And I tell them, God don't cause war, man does. But God will use war to bring people back to him. Sometimes it takes a shaking to wake up the sleepers. And Lord knows we've been sleeping. We chase money, we chase status, we chase fame. Meanwhile, truth sits unopened on a dusty shelf while the headlines scream the very verses we ignore. Ezekiel ain't fiction. It ain't a movie plot. It's now. It's today. Let me bring it home. If you woke up this morning and you got breath in your lungs, you blessed. If your heart is still beating, that means your story ain't over. But you need to live like we in the last chapter. Because baby, we are. Don't let fear eat you. Don't let doubt own you. But don't get too comfortable either. You know what we need? We need people bold enough to believe. People who ain't afraid to say, yes, Lord, I see what you're doing. And I choose you even when the world says I'm crazy, because they will call you crazy until the sky splits open and that trumpet blows. And then, then they'll remember what you said, what your heart believed, what Ezekiel told us. You ever notice how when God starts moving, the world starts panicking? Oh, come on now. The moment something shakes in the spirit, the news loses its mind. People start hoarding, start fearing, start looking for answers in all the wrong places. But folks who know, folks who've read the word, we don't panic like the world panics because we already knew this was coming. It's like seeing thunderclouds and then acting shocked when it rains. See, the thing about prophecy is it don't ask for your permission. It don't care who's in office. It don't care what kind of defense system you built. When God says it's time, it's time. And I believe with all my soul, we are in the time of unveiling. Not the end, not just yet. But the veil is coming off. And the people who've been sleepwalking, they're starting to stir. They're rubbing their eyes like, wait a minute, this looks familiar. Yeah, it should. It's been written for thousands of years. People always think prophecy is going to show up with lightning and angels blowing trumpets right away. No, sometimes it creeps in like smoke under a door. You don't see it fully until the room is filled, and by then, you're either ready or you're not. And I ain't talking about churchgoers now. I'm talking about truth walkers. People who don't just read the word, but walk it, breathe it, live it. People who ain't scared to admit, yeah, this world is shifting. And I'm not just watching, I'm aligning. Now I gotta say this, because some of y'all out here think you got time. You think you can wait till things get really bad. Let me tell you something. By the time you see the full picture, it may be too late to change yours. We live in a time where Israel can be hit by rockets in the middle of the night, and by morning, the world just goes back to its coffee like nothing happened, desensitized, cold. And the prophecy still unfolding. Iran keeps testing boundaries, keeps building, keeps talking. But they ain't just building weapons, they're building history. Ezekiel already told us these players would rise, that they'd unite, that they'd come with what looked like fury. But God said, I will show myself holy through it all. That's the key right there. God ain't worried about military strength or nuclear power. He's waiting on a moment, a divine appointment. The kind of moment where the world sees a little country surrounded by giants. And those giants fall not by Israel's strength, but by God's name. And what happens then? What happens when the world sees that kind of victory? It wakes up. It falls on its face. It remembers who God is. Y'all, I feel this deep. This isn't about a map. It's about a message. And the message is, I'm still God. I still rule. I still redeem. And I still remember my people. Now let me shift gears just a little bit, because I want to speak to the folks in the room or online or wherever you are who've been feeling heavy. You've been feeling like something's off, like your spirit is uneasy. You keep turning on the news, and it ain't just information, it's agitation. You can't explain it, but something inside you just knows this ain't normal. Let me free you up right now. You're not crazy. You're called. That's the Spirit letting you know this world ain't your home. And it's time to stop playing like it is. It's time to walk like a citizen of the kingdom, not a fan of the culture. Because listen, if Iran moves and Israel responds and the nations start to fall into place like dominoes, don't be caught off guard. Be found on your knees. Be found ready. Because the biggest mistake people make in times like this is thinking they still got time to decide. Ezekiel didn't prophesy to scare people. He prophesied to prepare them. And God ain't showing you this now to panic you. He's showing you so you can position yourself, position your faith, position your house, position your heart. Y'all remember that story of Noah, right? Now everybody thought Noah was crazy, building a boat when there wasn't a cloud in the sky. People laughed, mocked, called him names until that first drop hit. And baby, once that drop turned to downpour, it was too late to get on board. We ain't in the rain yet, but the clouds, they forming. And I can feel it in my soul. The ark is open, but it won't stay open forever. So ask yourself, Am I inside or am I still playing around outside, waiting for one more sign? You already got the sign. The sign is right there in your feed, in the missiles, in the peace deals that don't hold, in the way truth is being twisted, in the shaking that won't stop. You got the sign. Now it's time to move. Some of y'all been living in delay, waiting to forgive, waiting to believe, waiting to pray again like you used to, waiting to get back in your word, waiting to feel something. And I'm here to tell you, don't wait for fire to fall. Move at the whisper, because the fire's coming. But blessed is the one who listened when it was just the whisper. Blessed is the one who believed early. And I know it's hard out here. It's hard to focus when everything feels uncertain. But child, prophecy don't bring panic. It brings clarity. It shows you what matters. And what matters ain't your status, your likes, your paycheck, or your following. What matters is who do you belong to? Whose name is written on your heart when all the kingdoms of this world fall down? You think Ezekiel wrote that for scholars? No. He wrote it for us, for the ordinary folk trying to live right in a wrong world, for the people clinging to hope when everything seems broken, for the ones wondering if God still sees. Yes, he sees. He always has, and he's talking loud. Are you listening? Let me tell you something else. This ain't the time to argue over theology. This ain't the time to divide over opinions. This is the time to unify under the name that's above every name. Jesus, Yeshua, the Messiah, the one who holds Israel in his hand and still has mercy for Iran. Because yes, he died for them too. Don't get so caught up in the drama that you forget the divine. Don't let your news feed rob you of your compassion. Every nation, every person, every soldier, every mother crying tonight in Tel Aviv or Tehran, God still knows their name. And prophecy don't cancel mercy. It magnifies it. And while the world is choosing sides, God is still choosing souls. See, people forget. When Jesus walked this earth, he didn't sit with the powerful. He sat with the broken. He didn't come to pick a political side. He came to bring the kingdom. And that same kingdom, it's still knocking right now. Not later, not someday. Now, that's why this moment is so important. You see, prophecy ain't a threat. It's an invitation. It's God saying, look, I already told you how this goes down. I already showed you the end from the beginning. I already wrote it so you wouldn't be lost when it started happening. And don't get it twisted. God ain't out here trying to scare you into church. That's not his style. He's trying to wake you into purpose because fear fades. But purpose will hold you when the world starts shaking. Purpose will whisper peace when the headlines scream chaos. So if you're sitting there wondering, what do I do with all this? What do I do with what I'm feeling? What do I do with what I'm seeing? I got one word for you, prepare. I don't mean go build a bunker or stock up on bottled water. I mean, prepare your spirit, prepare your mind, prepare your family, prepare your priorities, prepare your soul to meet the king. Because if Ezekiel's vision is showing up on your screen, then that means you were chosen to live in a time where what's been prophesied is becoming reality. And that ain't coincidence. That's calling. You were born for this season. I need you to hear that again. You were born for this season. God could have put you in any century, any country, but any generation. But he put you here in a world on fire, with prophecy unfolding, with nations aligning, not because you're strong enough, but because he is. Because your voice, your faith, your light is needed now. The battlefield ain't just over there in the desert. It's right here. In our homes, our minds, our daily choices. Will we walk by fear or by faith? Will we fall in line with the world or rise up in the spirit? Because let me tell you, there's a remnant rising. People who aren't impressed by popularity, who ain't distracted by convenience, who aren't lukewarm anymore. They feel the urgency. They see the shift. And they're stepping forward. They're not waiting on a title, not waiting on a microphone. They're not waiting on permission. They already got it from the word, from the spirit, from the moment God breathed purpose into their lungs. And maybe you're one of them. Maybe you've been feeling that nudge in the middle of the night. That feeling like something is about to happen. That burden in your spirit that won't let you rest. That's not anxiety. That's not pressure. That's God calling his warriors awake. And you ain't got to be perfect to answer. You just got to be willing. You got to be willing to put the distractions down, willing to shut the noise off for a minute, willing to go deeper, willing to believe that what you're living in right now is bigger than you. Because the truth is, what we're seeing right now between Israel and Iran, between prophecy and politics, between headlines and holy warnings, it's all converging. It's all leading somewhere. It's not chaos. It's choreography. It's movement under heaven's direction. And every piece matters. The alliances that form matter. The tension that builds matters. The prayers whispered by a grandmother in a small house while rockets fall halfway across the world. Oh, baby, that matters. Nothing is wasted in the hand of God. And if we could just lift our eyes above the fear, above the division, above the noise, we'd see it. We'd see that Ezekiel wasn't just writing for his time, he was writing for ours, writing for every person feeling like the world is falling apart. And through him, God is saying, child, I told you this would happen. And I told you I'm still in control. So don't lose heart. Don't lose hope. Just because the road looks rough doesn't mean the destination changed. You can trust the one who wrote the map, and while the world plots and powers rise and fall, there's one constant: God's word stands. It doesn't bend, it doesn't break, it doesn't expire, and if he said the nations would rise, then they will. If he said he'd defend Israel, then he will. If he said there will be a shaking and afterward glory, then get ready for the glory. But don't wait to see it before you believe it, because faith ain't faith if it waits for proof. You got to believe now, stand now, worship now, love now, share truth now. Don't be one of those who gets ready when the trumpet sounds. Be one who's already awake when it does. And while some people are still asking, is this really Ezekiel's prophecy unfolding? I'm here to tell you, yes. Yes, it is. Maybe not the final chapter yet, but the pages are turning. The setup is forming. The players are moving into position. And you've got a role too. You're not just an observer in this story. You're part of the prophecy. So now here we are, standing in the middle of history and prophecy, caught between the noise of war and the whisper of God. And I need you to hear me. With everything I got in me, this is not the time to be casual. This is not the time to sleep through your calling. This is the time to get serious, to get real, to get right with the God who's been patient, who's been merciful, who's been calling your name long before the missiles started flying. Because what's coming ain't just about borders and bombs. It's about eternity. You can't afford to scroll past this moment. You can't afford to drown it out with another show, another distraction, another. I'll deal with it later. Later might not come. And I ain't saying that to scare you. I'm saying that because truth deserves urgency. Israel, around the Ezekiel prophecy, it's not just some far-off warning anymore. It's now. It's here. It's in your face, shaking you for a reason. God is trying to get your attention before the world does what it always does, collapse. So the question ain't what happens next. The question is, where will you stand when it does? You're going to be tossed by every headline or planted in every promise. You're going to chase comfort while the clock runs out, or rise up like the warrior God created you to be, because this world may not believe the Bible. But pretty soon, they won't be able to deny it. So don't just believe in God, believe God. Believe what he said. Believe what he's doing. And believe that if he chose you to live in this moment, then he equipped you for it too. The time for halfway is over. This is the hour for faith that stands, hearts that burn, souls that know. So rise up, child of God, shake off the fear. Lean into the fire, because this isn't the end. This is the awakening. Thanks for watching.